Okay, it's Sunday, so it's time to play some fighting games and have some questions. I still haven't played any games, so we're just gonna play some Guilty Gear in the background. I have a controller again, I just haven't played any games, so we're just gonna watch some Guilty Gear in the background. So first off, before we start, we'll go with the general one. Hey, did you see that Overwatch 2 stuff? Yeah, I saw, well, I didn't watch the live stream, but I've read all the summaries of it. In conclusion, I don't like most of the changes. I don't like going from 6 to 5 with the one tank, and then, like, could you have at least not, like, nerfed Reinhardt's shield at the same time you're taking the other tank off the team? So here's the thing, I already don't really like playing tank anyway, because it's a fairly miserable experience. I really don't want to do it when there's only one tank. Good luck getting to pick anything that isn't Reinhardt and not getting yelled about for it, probably. Apparently they're reworking Orisa somewhat. She's going to be less static, is what that reads as. So maybe she'll be better, who knows, maybe. But, like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. It's going to be a terribly miserable experience. Yeah. Like, you already get yelled at a lot as a tank. Now you're the only tank. Also, this will have the knock-on effect of making snipers a lot stronger. Because, the main, like, thing with double shield is that it really, like, shuts out snipers and long-range characters, right? Because it's just very hard to shoot people when they're behind so many walls. If there's only one tank, and that tank has a nerfed shield as well, it makes it way better for snipers overall. That's assuming you get to play a game where you aren't just playing with solo tank Roadhog or Zarya, which will be thoroughly miserable experiences in all likelihood. Because they don't appear to be making any dramatic changes to those characters. Zarya has 2 charges for her bubble now, so that's nice, but it's shared across the 2 abilities. So, you could shield yourself twice now, or shield an ally twice, but, you know, that doesn't really make her much better at being a main tank, right? All the off tanks are just going to be really unpleasant to play with as the only tank on the team. So I don't like it. I don't like it very much. I actually really fucking hate it, and I can tell you that, I'll never play tank again. Because I just don't want to do that. Other changes that I did like, the roles are all getting a passive, which is that tanks, they're all getting the steadfast passive, essentially. Probably lower than steadfast, but they're all going to have reduced knockback. And they all give less ult charge to the enemy team as well, which is about fucking time, to be frank with you. Some tanks are bad just off of how much ult charge they feed to the enemy team. So that's, you know, several years late, but hey, as long as you get there in the end, right? DPS are gonna move faster, which Tracer and Genji already do, but apparently it's just gonna be DPS now. And supports are all gonna passively regen health, like Mercy, but lower HP. So I hope Mercy, like, gets a better passive, pretty much. Because it's kind of shitty if your passive is then just, it's a little better than everyone else's, but, probably not. Anyway, I do like that. I like those changes overall. Playing like Ana and Baptiste are kind of really fucking annoying because healing yourself is quite inconvenient. So that's nice that they just will regen some health. Other changes I like, that they're reworking Bastion and Orisa, though we didn't see anything about those changes, they just said they are. I can't imagine Orisa's going to get a massive change. Bastion's going to be completely different, I can tell you that much, and thank God. I said this the other day, that like the way Bastion is now, he pretty much has to be completely worthless, because if he exists as he is now and is in any way good, he becomes what the game revolves around, because he's so easy to play. If he's in any way good at all, he will dominate the game, even if he's just like middling quality. the sheer ease of play would make the game revolve around him. So, hey, it's about time. Bastion's gonna be different. Thank God. Let's get that shit out of here. What I would like to see is that, like, they keep configuration turret, but it's a very finite thing. Like, he pushes the... But, like, I want him to have, like, a gauge that he can be in turret form, basically. And we're talking, like, he can be in turret form for, like, 4 seconds max, consistently. And I'm okay with it being way stronger, also, as long as the gauge doesn't refill mad quick. But I want them to keep configuration turret, but just make it very finite, as opposed to how it is right now. Just be way less fucking annoying, pretty much. I don't really want them to do anything to configuration tank. I think configuration tank is fine. But they said they're reworking him from the ground up, which kind of implies all his abilities will be different. But, I mean, I feel like Bastion that doesn't turn in... Like, you've really lost something, haven't you? I think, if you, like, remove configuration turret. But it kind of seems like what they'll do, based off the wording, at least. But who knows? Whatever. We'll see. Yeah. The other change I don't really like is that May's not going to freeze people anymore. She still slows them, but she's going to do more damage, but it's just not going to stun people now. I don't really like that, because, like, you've lost something of May's identity out of that, haven't you? You know? Like, it just makes May less unique, right? The slow, sure, okay, but, like, I don't know. It just feels like you've lost some of the character's identity at that point. Same as when they removed the armor from, Bridget's, armor pack. Or the repair pack, sorry. Like, it didn't really affect her balance-wise, but it makes her less interesting, right? Like, you just lose a little bit of that character's identity. And then they're also changing CC a lot, which is just... They're gonna remove most of the CC, probably. Seems like they're gonna put all the CC on tanks, pretty much, and, like, reduce or remove everybody else's CC. So, like, who the fuck knows what that's gonna mean, right? Like, are they gonna take Flashbang from McCree? Like, McCree becomes so much less interesting without Flashbang, right? Like, they can't, surely. But who knows what they're gonna do. People complain about CC a lot, so I wouldn't be surprised if there was basically no CC in the game afterwards, apart from apparently the tanks, but who knows. The big thing is the 5v5. I don't like it. I hate it, actually, and I don't want to ever play tank 5v5. So now, moving on to the actual questions. Will you do a Let's Play on the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles when it comes out, or are there too many games you're playing at the moment? Yeah, I want to play it. I'd like to actually play the other Ace Attorney games, because I played them, like, once, but, like, literally, like, over a decade ago at this point. So, aside some of the, like, big plot twists, I really don't remember much of the games at all. So, honestly, I'd like to play through, like, all of them at some point. Next, which is your favorite from the big FromSoft games so far, and why? Dark/Demon Souls, and Sekiro. Have there been any other games of a similar vein you've played and enjoyed more, / would recommend? There aren't any in the same genre that I've enjoyed more than the ones that FromSoft have made, but the notable ones would be Nioh is very good. It's a more action-y version of the From Software setup, but still very recognizably Souls. It's just Souls if you kind of, like, sprinkled some Devil May Cry on it, pretty much. I haven't played Nioh 2. I want to, but I haven't played it yet. But Nioh 1, at least, was very good, and Nioh 2 looks to be largely pretty much the same. Just more thereof, you know? That's very good. And I would understand if you didn't count these as Souls-like games, but I will, which is Hollow Knight and Blasphemous. They're basically just 2D Souls games. Now, some would scoff and say, they're Metroidvanias, actually. Look, Dark Souls is a Metroidvania, alright? it just happens to be 3D. You know, it's 3D with more action-y combat than like the Metroid games had. But Blasphemous and Hollow Knight are both very good and very much evoke a Souls-like kind of aesthetic. Blasphemous is a little bit more grotesque. Blasphemous is definitely not from anyone, just on subject matter alone. Because Blasphemous is, it's kind of like Berserk, like the manga, but, like, coded in, like, heavy Catholic imagery. So, definitely not for everyone. But, assuming you don't mind the kind of, like, dark content, and heavy religious overtones, it's also very evokes the Souls-like experience a lot. So, Neo, Hollow Knight, and Blasphemous are like the 3 Souls-like adjacent games I'd recommend. Of the big FromSoft games I've enjoyed, the one I enjoy the most is Sekiro, and I'll tell you why. It's because it has the best combat. The Souls games in general do have good combat, obviously. It's 90% of what's going on in the game. But, like, the thing that Sekiro has, for me, over the others, is it feels like you're actually fighting the thing you're fighting, right? Like, you're actually standing toe-to-toe with the thing you're fighting and fighting it directly. But all the other Souls-like games, it's like you roll through the attack animation, like you literally just phase through their attack animation and then hit them in the ass while they're doing their big recovery, right? Which is fine. Like, I've got no problem with it. I enjoy all of the Souls games, but Sekiro, it feels a lot more like you are fighting the thing that you're in combat with, right? You've got a more direct... Like, it's obvious, like, some people don't like it because they were never big into the parrying in the other games. Neither was I, but, like, look, it's not the same thing. The whole combat system is based around the parrying now. I like Sekiro's combat so much more than the other Souls games that if Elden Ring doesn't have at least a variation of it that I can use, I'm gonna like Elden Ring a lot less. Like, Sekiro's combat, to me, is so much better than the other Souls games. I'll be disappointed if it's not in Elden Ring, at least as an option. I don't necessarily need the whole game to be based around it again, but I want more of that Sekiro kind of combat. Like, I also do like the exploration element more than the other ones as well. Exploration's a big part of the Souls games as well, but, like, it feels like Sekiro's world is a lot more receptive to exploration, right? Like, it feels more like you're interacting with the environment. The other Souls games, it's kind of like, I've seen it compared to, like, archaeology, where you're just kind of, like, tumbling around these, like, ancient ruins, like, what the fuck happened here? But Sekiro's a little bit more, like, receptive and interactive to your exploration. I also like Tenchu, back when that was a game series, which Sekiro started as in development, but then it became its own thing, and they dropped the Tenchu branding. But I like Tenchu a lot, and, like, you can very clearly see the Tenchu inspirations, at least, at the exploration element. So I like that more as well. Having a jump button's nice. Also, pause button works. Pause is the fucking game, because it's not based around online. Big plus. But Sekiro, by far. Second, very close second, is Bloodborne, because I like Gothic horror, and I like Eldritch horror, which is, and it's both of those things. Starts as Gothic horror, ends up becoming Eldritch horror. Cosmic horror, I should say. The combat doesn't do it for me as much. I like it more than the other Souls games, because it's a much more frenetic style of combat. It feels a little more like you're fighting it still, because it's just a way more aggressive game than the Souls games are. But it's mostly for the theming of the game that I like Bloodborne. But very close second. Yeah, but Sekiro, very fucking good game. Very good. As long as you can get down with the parrying at least a little bit anyway. So now, moving on. Next up is how to improve when climbing ranked is miserable. So, this person was talking about how they play with their friends, but their friends are like gold, platinum, and they're only mid-silver, which makes it so they don't perform as well as their friends, pretty much. And it's like, they're basically like, I could just play a lot by myself to get better, but I find playing alone miserable because of the usually cited reasons of not liking how people don't play like I like them to play, pretty much. Like, my teammates are bad, you know, the usual thing. People are assholes, blah, 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 blah. And I mean, like, is it really a big deal if you don't perform as well as your friends, right? Like, is that really a huge deal? Cause, like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I play with all my friends. Like, my friends are, like, all in bronze and silver. I just play on another account so that I can play with them, but, like, it's fine. It's more about that I'm playing with my friends, you know? Is it, like, really a huge deal if you perform, like, a bit worse than them? Because, like, if your friends are, like, gold or plat, then, like, and you're, like, mid-silver, you're not even, like, that much lower than them, if we're being honest. Like, because they obviously can't be high plat, or you wouldn't be able to play with them, really. So, like, it obviously can't be a massive discrepancy. Is it really, like, a big deal? You know, like, if you feel like you're having if you hate playing by yourself, then play with, like, one of the friends that's kind of close-ish to you, right? Like, play with one of your friends, right? Like, if you're silver, you've said you had friends that are in gold, play with some of the friends that are in gold, and just, like, see if that works out for you, you know? Like, because, like, if you really don't like playing by yourself, don't do it. It's a fucking video game, right? Like, if you find playing the game by yourself to be miserable, and you only really like playing with your friends, just play with your friends. Right? Like, it seems like an easy fix to me, just don't be so worried about the video game. It's a video game. Granted, this is easier said than done. People get, like, really upset about video games, blah, blah, blah. I'm on record as thinking that people get way too weird about video games and how much, like, value they put on them. Because, like, people base their entire fucking identity around video games. Which is, like, a little weird, you know? Like, I like video games a lot, but, like, I'm not a gamer, you know? I don't like to include myself with the gamers, because the gamers are fucking weird people, right? Anyway. Like, if you just hate playing ranked by yourself, don't do it. It's a video game, it's meant to be fun. Don't do things that make you miserable. Good advice for life, really. Just try not to do things that make you miserable. Next up. How do you make space with Tracer when your tanks won't? So, it's not, like, with this, if you're not a tank, right, the way you take space is by denying space to the other team. And the way you do that as Tracer is you just try and bully their backline, because if they have to worry about you killing the backline, then they are worrying less about the front line, which will effectively take space away from them as people from the front line come back to help with the backline. Because, like, you don't take space unless you're a tank, right? Like, the tanks move into the space and take it, and then the securing of that space is more down to the other roles, because the tanks take the space, the securing of it kind of requires the killing of other people, which tanks are capable of doing, of course, but typically some assistance will be required. So, like, you as a DPS don't take the space, you will have to instead try and deny that space from the enemy team, thereby effectively giving your team more space. Because if more people are backing off from the front line, makes it easier for your front line to walk in. Now, no guarantee they'll do it, of course, because tragically you can give people as much clear signposting that they should go right now as you want, but there's still no guarantee that they'll do it. I've seen Lucio players use Sound Barrier and then amp up their speed boost, only for the Reinhardt to continue sitting in that choke point on Hanamura getting fucked. There's no guarantee people will ever do anything, no matter how much of a clear opening you give them. This is just something you have to accept. It's just how it is. So, don't, you, as Tracer at least, with all DPS, but with Tracer, you gotta go around, you gotta bully the enemy team, you gotta pull them back from the front line, and then you gotta hope your team actually capitalizes on this opportunity that they're given. No guarantee they will, but there's no guarantee your team's gonna do anything. Yo, look at this fucker. Look at Mei. Holy shit, did you see that? My man's just blocking this fucking dolphin. Listen to the noise it makes as well. That's terrible. I hate it. God damn, my man's just sitting there blocking that fucking dolphin. Fucking Mei. God damn. Don't like that. She also looks way too fucking young. Look, I'm playing this game because 2 of the female characters are hot, alright? Look, leave me alone. Get this shit away from me. Anyway. Next up. Is Winston better as a main tank or as an off tank, assuming there's no Zarya/Diva, spelt incorrectly, on your team? First off, let me just point out it's very funny that my man misspelled a 3-letter name. But, there's more to talk about. Because I like to look at the photo, I like to look into the photos, I like to look into the threads to see what's going on, get some more context, see what some other people are saying. And I couldn't help but notice that the top comment, the OP responded to it, but the comment was hidden because it got downvoted a lot. So I was like, ooh, that sounds exciting. So let's have a gander at that. So the comment responding to the OP was, also this will double as my answer because my guy's got a good answer. Winston is a true main tank. The argument if you don't have a Zarya/Diva is the same for Orisa or Reinhardt players. Main tanks take space and give the team an opportunity to push in. You always have to pick the best spots, ways, and times to do this, no matter what main tank you play. A Reinhardt that just charges in, an Orisa pressing shift and going in and blowing up as well as Winston going in without backup. In the end, you always have to pick the best spots if you engage as a tank player. Off tanks help compensate mistakes or risks, but you will be better off if you don't use up OT resources and freeing them up for the fight. So this is a good answer. Is people think about Winston differently to like Reinhardt and Orisa, right? Even though it's effectively the same thing, you're just filtering it through a little bit differently. Because you jump in, which is a little different to walking in, right? But like, you're effectively still doing the same thing, which is picking the correct time and place to go in. Then the OP responded. I think the semantics come down to what one means by pick the best spots. For example, Winston Orisa, what exactly is Orisa doing when it comes to picking the best spot? Isn't she just the first one to show herself and drop her shield? Hey enemy, over here, hit me. Whereas, when Winston is picking the best spot, he's using elevation/wall to hide behind. How can you really call this style of sneaky being the main tank? Implying Winston's like a stealth champion or something, right? Like, what the fuck does that mean, dog? What this also indicates to me is my man does not understand the concept of cover, right? Because the implication here is that, like, using a wall to hide behind, right? Exact words. Kind of implies that he just doesn't use cover as a tank. Outside of a shield. Maybe that's me reading too much into it, but that's the implication I get from it. And this, by the way, this got a fucking mythical -79 points. which is pretty incredible, to be honest. I didn't even think it was that bad, really. Just like my man didn't understand, like, what Winston's about, really. But damn, people didn't like that one very much. But, like, it's weird, right? Like, how can you call this style of sneaky being the main tank? You're not being sneaky. Winston's really fucking upfront with what he's doing. You're jumping at the enemy team. You're just not jumping straight into 6 fucking people, you know? Because then they all turn and go, yo, what the fuck are you doing? And they clap you, which they do with every tank, as it would happen. Reinhardt charging into 6 people receives a similar response. It's weird. People just think about Winston differently, right? Like, you'll have people staunchly maintain that Winston is not a main tank. In what way is he an off tank? Right? Like, when you think about the other off tanks, they bring some kind of, like, really big utility, right? Like, Zarya brings the bubbles, and, Graviton, big utility. She doesn't bring so much in the way of, like, upfront line presence, because she doesn't have, like, a big body to hide behind, right? Like the other tanks do. No shield, anything like that. But she brings this incredible utility and higher damage to the table. Also, the things the off tanks tend to do, they tend to be higher damage, with some exceptions. Like D.Va, she brings big defense matrix, huge utility, one of the best abilities in the game by far, just completely no-sells certain ultimates. Self-destruct, also pretty good utility, good for zoning, good for aggression, and now you can fucking squash people like a bug. Fantastic. Roadhog brings nothing towards being a tank, tends to give a lot to the enemy team, being one of the classic ult battery champions, but he's got the hook, obviously great utility, and Whole Hog is like a really good ultimate. Like, it's not like one of the obviously good ultimates like Graviton, which has an obviously amazing effect, but like Whole Hog is like a very firm, like, we're not having this fight, I don't like it ability. Like, it's a great defensive ultimate, and it has offensive applications as well. Plus being a pretty good combo with Nano Boost, actually. Also, it'll fully kill a Symmetra's wall, which is, like, actually pretty incredible. It's very hard to get rid of Symmetra's ultimate. Roadhog can do it, with a Whole Hog. But, like, what does Winston bring as a utility? Right? What does Winston have as a utility? Primal Rage's knockback? Alright. Right? Like, the most utility that Winston brings is that he doesn't have to aim, so he's good at, like, challenging certain characters that are hard to hit. Like Genji, right? Like, he's good at protecting people from flankers, but not even all flankers, because some flankers includes, Doomfist and Reaper, right? Which Winston obviously does nothing to help. And, like, it's not like he no-sells these characters, right? Like, the flankers still have things they can do against the Winston. So, like, what's Winston's utility? Primal Rage's knockback, that's basically it. He's got a shield. The shield sucks. Let's be honest. Winston's bubble fucking sucks as a shield. It's not used for that. It's used for covering him when he goes in. It's not good for the team, which is why when Winston puts their bubble in the choke point and then jumps in 3 seconds later, you know that guy doesn't know how to play Winston. So, like, Winston's a main tank. It's how he is. He has a big presence. He does not have big utility. This is the thing that sets the two of them apart. The main tanks have big presence, and the off tanks have big utility. And typically bigger damage. Main tanks will sometimes beat them out in some circumstances. Like, obviously, that a Reinhardt that's nano boosted and is swinging into people he just earth shattered is going to do more damage than, like, Zarya is right now. But, like, in most situations, the off-tank can bring more damage and more utility than the main tank. But the main tank brings a bigger frontline presence for occupying space, which Winston definitely falls into. The only one that's kind of awkward is Sigma kind of rests somewhere in between these 2 points, right? Like, Toes is fucked up. Fuck Toes. Honestly, let's get Toes out of the game. Fuck that guy. Weird character. God damn. Just let me move my fucking shield. God damn. Why is there a cooldown on moving the fucking shield? God, I hate you so much, Blizzard. God damn. Anyway. So, let's see how long we've been here. We've been here 30 minutes. Alright, we'll do one more, because this was the other spite pick I chose, pretty much. Which is, hard counters and practice was just the thread title. But it had the question tag, so I clicked on it like, alright, what's going on in here? What you got cooking? Because I thought it was going to be about how to practice characters that are hard counters, right? Like, how do you practice hard countering someone? Which would have been a fair question, actually. It seems like it's really obvious, but I've seen people fuck up hard counters enough. But the question actually was, how do you practice people when you can get hard countered? The specific instance this person was talking about was they want to play Echo, but they can't play Echo because there's too many hard counters, because if he happens to queue into a game where there's a decent hit scan on the enemy team, he's hard countered, and there's nothing he can do. This is tremendously reductive, like to a frankly insane degree, because it implies that there's nothing Echo, and by extension Farah, can do if there's a hit scan that's got even like just decent aim on the enemy team, which is not true. Really good Farahs can play against Widowmaker because it's not a complete shutout. And Farah is debatably less mobile than Echo is, right? Echo doesn't even really have to be in the air constantly, right? Like, Echo can be played on the ground and then using her, like, her flight as basically just a dash to try and pick people off, or, like, to take off angles. Like, she doesn't need to be in the air as much as Farah does. Anyway, that's just more of a semantic point. But, like, this is another thing people don't do, which is they don't think about cover in the third dimension, right? Like, they tend to think, like, for most people, it seems, they think being in the air is directly analogous to being in cover, and they stop thinking about it, right? Because you see it. You see the Mercy just floating out in open space, and then McCree uses Deadeye, and she goes, oh, shit, and then she gets shot out of Valkyrie immediately. Because she's not thinking about cover in the third dimension. She's just like, I'm very high, and therefore I'm very hard to hit. And then someone goes, what if I don't need to aim? And Mercy goes, oh shit, I'm not in cover. So, like, yeah, think about it this way. It's very map dependent, to be fair. There are maps where it's easier for the Echo / Farah to play against the hit scan hero. For example, Rialto is very good to play Farah and Echo against the hit scan, because there's way more directions, basically. They've got more ways they can go to get around the hit scan player's line of sight. There's also just more cover they can use in general in the air. Somewhere like Havana, by comparison, there are not really any flank routes that the flying characters can take advantage of, and there isn't really a whole lot of cover either, because the first checkpoint is just the straight hallway. You can't even go over the rooftops. The second checkpoint is extremely confined, so obviously flying champions don't get a lot of value there anyway. And then the third one, there's no cover. It's just a big open space. There's basically no cover you can use while you're in the air, which is fine if there's like no hit scan on the enemy team, but you know. So like Havana is really bad. I would probably say that the hit scan character hard counters Farah on Havana specifically. Because what's Farah gonna do on Havana, right? There's no options for her, really. Echo, less so, because again, she doesn't need to be in the air constantly. Farah kind of does. Echo, you can play more grounded, and it's not really a huge detriment to the character. You can just use it for more, like, specific moments instead, whereas Farah is defined by flying, right? Echo, not as much, I feel. But like Rialto, you're not getting hard countered by a hit scan on Rialto, dog. If you're dying constantly to that hit scan hero on Rialto, you don't know how to use cover, basically. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's not like, it's not a hard counter. It's still a skill-based thing at that point, right? I would give you Farah as hard countered on a map like Havana, but I will not give you hard countered on most maps in the game. Havana is kind of an outlier in this because it is so straight line, confined, no cover, right? Like, that's the exact thing it goes through. All 3 of the points have something that's like a huge detriment to playing Pharah on it. Which, there's no alternate routes, you're just looking straight at them. There's no high area to use anyway, because we're in a warehouse, and now there's just no cover. It's nice and open now, but now it's too open instead. But yeah, like, dog, it's not a hard counter. You're just not using cover. You're just floating out in open space, wondering why you're getting shot at. Just stop being an open space. Stop being so easy to shoot at, and they won't shoot at you. And I solved coaching right there. Thank you very... Oh, no, we gotta watch the end of this game, haven't we? That just felt like such a good point to wrap up on. It's okay, Guilty Gear games are fast. So, I'm still very excited for Guilty Gear. You know, the characters they've added to fighters make me want to play fighters a lot less, to be honest. Like, things just real fucking annoying with fighters. I'm sure I'll hate Guilty Gear for its own special reasons, because there's always something to hate about a fighting game, but man... I'm excited to have another fighting game to play. Hopefully it won't make me super mad. I fell off Granblue because it just made me really mad when I played it. Like, I just got really salty playing Granblue, more so than, like, any other game. Yeah, good job, Yoichi. Ramathal, holding it together. Get this fucking Axel shit out of here. Fuck Axel, goddamn. So thank you very much for watching if you did. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer. If you have a question you'd like answered on the show, please communicate via your preferred method. Email, comment, Discord, smoke signals, whichever you prefer. I start streaming on Twitch Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 8 p.m. EST to 11 EST. There's links to the channel in the description. If you managed to make it all the way through the video and still enjoyed it, please like the video and subscribe for more content of middling quality in the future, and I hope you found the video helpful.